Good morning, everyone. It's Stefan Swanepoel and Jack Miller again here from T3. It is Friday, and it is, Jack, I believe, the last Friday in May.
Yeah.
We started this wonderful, informal, casual Friday fireside chat with leaders of the industry as a result of COVID about, what was it, about 9-10 weeks ago, something like that?
Yep.
And we've had a group of interesting and great leaders. What makes today even more fun, we've never had 3 people on at the same time. So very cool. Welcome to the, can I say, the family and the leadership at Windermere in all regards. These are husbands and wives and brothers and sisters and siblings, and they're all one happy family. So from Jack and me, Geoff, to you and your delightful wife Jill and brother Joby on that side, on the other side of our screen, Obi Jacobi. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very, very much for joining it. We are indeed honored. We have always looked at Windermere. Windermere's always been a little bit of an enigma. You've always been a very private, you still are a very private company, both as an organization as well as leadership. You tend to not be boastful at all. You're very, very, very professional, very quiet. And as I said to Jack the other day in researching your company, which I've now done, of course, many times the last couple of years, the one thing that stands out for me, and I'm going to just kick off with that if I may, I'm going to take the lead here. You do incredible amount of charitable work. I know that the real estate brokerage community as general are charitable people. And I think in general, people give back to their community on all levels. And there are many other companies, Keller Williams, I think EXP. I mean, there are some other organizations which we hear about and they do great works. But certainly it is one of your incredible strengths. Tell me a little bit about it, because I think you guys have been doing it a long time. And I'm not sure I have the latest statistics, but I think you're around about 40 million in charitable contributions, in that ballpark?
A little over 40 million. Well, it's the favorite thing about our company, I think. I was actually on a board meeting this morning for another board that I sit on, and they were asking me how we're handling the COVID situation and staffing and that kind of thing. And I said, God, you know, the Windermere Foundation is just so lucky because we have an executive director who happens to be Geoff's sister, and we have an accounting person, and we don't have to go out and raise money. It is every transaction, our agents donate to the foundation. And then they raise money because all the money goes back to the local communities. So it's just been a really fortunate way that we've been able to give back. It's just dead simple.
Give me as an example of 1 or 2 or 3 cool things that you've been involved with.
Well, this last month, right when COVID broke out, you remember the food bank lines. And so we decided to do try to raise money for the local food banks. And so we put out there a $250,000 match for our offices to raise money for their local food banks. And we raised, I think we hit yesterday like $700,000. So
wow.
It's so awesome. And it's what I'm most proud of with our company, for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to get away from that good feeling which one has inside when you do something for somebody else and when they need it and you can actually make a difference and you can actually help them. I mean, it's all over. Just, we all should do more. We don't often do as much as we can. So when you see somebody actually pulling the trigger and doing it, it's just cool. Cool. Awesome.
It is, just to jump a little bit more in, it is certainly core to who we are as a company and individual. We have our big foundation, which gets probably, the most notoriety, if you will. But we have offices who are partnering with local restaurateurs to deliver food to frontline workers in hospitals. And, they're raising money, partnering with them to keep the restaurant people in business. And it's just, I think it's super cool as a cultural thing for our company to do. It really is, it's really neat to watch from on high because it's really led and delivered by our agent population.
So jumping into the real estate market, your hub and your centricity is close to one of those highly populated areas which were hit by boats and viruses and COVIDs and restraints and all that kind of funny stuff. When did you guys become aware of the coronavirus and the pandemic? Was January, February? When did it hit in your area?
Well, I think if you probably remember in late February, the nursing home in Kirkland, Washington was the first one to really get hit and had what we thought was the first death in the United States. And so Seattle area was kind of the first epicenter, if you will. And Seattle shut down pretty dang quick. It was really interesting to watch because before the governor started shutting things down, companies like Amazon and Microsoft all shut down first. Zillow, for instance, everybody kind of started sending their employees home because the workforce for tech companies like that can do that. So we were
amazing, by the way.
Yeah. And
those companies also operated in China, and so they had shutdowns. They knew what was coming, so they were the first to send all their employees home.
Yeah, and so if you follow statistics on the market, the real estate market, you'll see Seattle hit the trough almost first, and it stayed at the bottom for about 2 weeks, which was about 60% of normal market. And we came into the market red hot. In March, we were up 28% in the Seattle area. And so that carried through March. And as we started to see each week, it starts increasing more and more pending transactions. And so, for instance, this last week, we were over 100% of last year's market.
100%?
Yeah. And now that there's probably we were at 82% the week before. And that might be a Memorial Day anomaly because more people are home and around and things like that. But we're seeing, across our 10-state footprint, we're seeing massive shortages of inventory, obviously, because home sellers are nervous, right? There's tons of pent-up buyers out there, but we're back to that scarcity of inventory, and so
you had a great March. How was April?
April, if you average it out, I think we're about 70% of year over year. May is about 80%. And it is super localized. So, if you go to Montana's up 11% year over year. Mm. So, it depends on the state, depends on the county, depends on, Seattle still is not out of any kind of phase. They're in phase 0, if you will. Phase 1 waiting to move on to phase 2, whereas Idaho is moving to phase 3 this weekend. So, across the West in all of our states, it's in different states of openness, I guess.
So you would say that if we have another strong week or another strong month or two, you might actually see numbers in June and July that could be similar to last year?
Yeah, absolutely. The unfortunate part is we're back to, in Seattle, for instance, we're down to 0.8 months of inventory, right? And we were at 1.9 months, which is getting healthier. Now we're back to oh crap, we're in multiple offers and people are fighting for houses and long lines because you got to schedule them out. And, so we just need inventory. But yeah, we could see good numbers again.
And did the prices in any way significantly change, or have they been able to hold pretty firm as well?
Holding really firm. Yeah. Shocking.
It is shocking, but it's of course delightful, right, Obi? I mean, this is like the best news that real estate can get. That there's not really a dip in pricing, and the dip which we had in demand was really not demand; it was really supply. And if we had the supply, the demand would probably gobbled up the supply. So we could be back to normal. So no light switch. It's almost as if the lights never went off.
Yeah, I think
it got a little dim.
Yeah,
a little dim.
It's too early to say at all. I don't think we understand yet the implication of unemployment and what that's going to bring. I don't know what forbearance on mortgage payments. You got a lot of people, the minute they were offered a forbearance package, they took it. So you know, crystal ball does not get us to even market or anything else. I think we have more to come.
But from your point of view, you're looking towards a Q3 or a Q4 that could be as close as we can think normality could be, right? I mean,
It certainly feels like we could get there.
I'm so excited. Jack and I feel, from our consulting side, we feel the same way. If we just look at the number of potential customers that have projects in the works and still have plans, they may have shelved it for 30, 60, 90 days because of that cautionary kind of, not scared, just let's just wait and see this out a little bit. And now that they see that it's not, maybe, again, we all understand 100,000 deaths is terrible, right? We understand that. But it seems to be less than what everybody expected. It seems to be somewhat more to normal kind of numbers of flu-like deaths in some regard. And people saying it looks like we're pulling through this.
Yeah, the national numbers, and we work in a lot of different markets, and we're seeing very similar patterns. And it is localized. There are some places that are struggling to find buyers or to have sales. So it isn't that it's not perfect everywhere or anything. But overall, if you look at the big trends in the major metros and some of that, we work with some very large MLSs and been looking at their stats, looking at stats that predict the activity, like showing activity. We were looking just this morning, I was going through the level of showing activity and how many people are viewing listings in MLS portals from one of the largest MLSs in the country. And it's the predictive activity is up. So people are looking, they're shopping, and those are people working with a realtor, not just browsing around on Zillow. That means they're getting a property alert from their MLS, from their realtor that they set up. And it's pretty strongly predictive in what we've been tracking. So we do see this as broad-based. And I agree, Geoff, we don't know the unemployment issue. I don't think we fully understand yet how quickly people are going to be able to go back to work. Have we damaged part of the economy in a more, not say permanent forever, but in a more permanent way? Meaning, were those jobs gone for a couple of years? I don't think we know those answers, and that's going to have a big impact on purchasing. So,
you mentioned some of the tech companies, the Microsofts, and you mentioned Zillow as well. And I spoke to one of the executives of one of those companies, and they have an office downtown in Seattle, and they said it was like a ghost town at one stage. Was it?
Still is.
It still is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Amazon, everybody's got prolonged work from home directives now in Seattle. For instance, I think Zillow said, don't come back till January. So that, it creates, when downtown Seattle, for instance, is built on a lot of technology, it gets real quiet down there.
Do you guys think that this COVID or this Corona impact we had, what kind of long-term impact may it maybe have on the real estate industry? Will there be any longevity into it? Will we be doing anything significantly different as a result of?
Well, I think efficiencies for sure. I'm sure every single person listening is tired of Zoom.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing thing also, right? We've all had much better connections with our people. It's what our team has offered to our entire network is incredible. And that's the positives, that we've been able to connect with people. Real estate offices, 30% of the people come to the office and you don't see 70%, and you just kind of feel like, oh my gosh, do these people have any idea what's going on? And now, they have an idea of what's going on, and it's a great thing.
One day I said to Jack, it feels to me somewhat like that. Remember when social media all started and it blew up? So prior to social media, I don't know, you had like 20 friends. That was only your friendship circle. And then suddenly 2 years later, you had 20,000 friends. And you said, where did the other 19,900 come from? Because I don't know who they are. And it's now the same. You usually communicate with, 100 people per week. Now suddenly you're communicating with 1,000 in a day. And you go like, wow, am I being more efficient, or am I not really communicating with them, or am I communicating with them, right? It's that the numbers sound crazy, but that while you're talking to some people, they're, playing with the kid and having a snack and eating a pizza and multitasking and picking up email and doing all the other stuff too. So we're not.
How would you say your turnout? Because we've been working with a lot of brokers that move their sales meetings online. What's your turnout? Are you seeing we're hearing pretty different reports of the turnout, but what do you see on your side?
It's
Huge.
huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Sales where you get 90% of the agents showing up.
90%.
It's incredible. That's incredible.
The other thing that is we're doing some health and wellness things right now because through this we recognize because people are showing up to these Zoom meetings, there are a lot of people struggling, and how can we help? And you don't know that if we don't have the Zoom meetings, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of been another bonus in this, is to be able to help people through hard times.
It's tough to help somebody if they don't put their hand up, right? And if you don't have that regular, personal, intimate relationship or touching or communication with them, it's actually very possible to not know. Because how many agents you guys have? I mean, many thousands, right?
68. Yes.
6,800, is that it?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no way a snowball's hoping you know where that you can even know or really communicate with all of them. I mean, it's an impossibility.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, Geoff. It is incredible. We, we have luxury divisions that we split out by location based, obviously, because we get people together. And this has given us an opportunity. We'll have a luxury event online now, and we'll get 400 people to sign up for it. And so there's a lot of cross communication and collaboration between all of our people. It's the silver lining, I think, in this whole thing.
And we've been able to use webinars for our franchisees. Think of like trying to explain PPP and how that works.
Very hard.
But it's been great because we can get everybody on one call. They can ask questions. They can hear each other's questions. Back to Obi's point, the silver lining is that we can communicate so much better with this.
Yeah, but like Jill also said, I do sometimes feel that I'm getting to Zoom fatigue, right? I mean, it's like, how many more Zoom calls can you do per day? And when you're already doing somewhere between 6 to 10 a day, and you feel you're squeezing them in roughly every 45 minutes, and you know they're important, you want to do them, and it's convenient, and it's in the comfort of your home, so you get all of that, but I wouldn't mind them to be over.
I think they're more intense than live meetings. You're trying to really read all these people at one time, and I think it's exhausting.
Yes.
There are more. It's fun. Our consulting group talked about that this morning because we have engagements where we would normally fly out. We'd fly out, we'd meet with people for a day, and and we've had clients come back and say, hey, we still want to do the sessions and et cetera. Are you going to give us any kind of a break because you're doing it over Zoom? And we said, well, no, because it's more work actually. To keep a group going over a Zoom meeting is harder than if you're in the room with them, and you're going to save on the hotel, you're going to save on the flight, you're going to save on the food. We're just going to come there, and you don't have to travel your team either. So let's just do it. But it did come up because I think it is exhausting to spend all day running these things is very hard. I had a question for you guys. You guys have kind of quietly done some really awesome thought leadership in the industry with technology. And I think it's a bit of an unsung story in terms of people that are, paying. Those of us who are paying attention know it happened, but I think there's a lot of people that don't. But what's happened with your technology platform through this, and how, because I know adoption is always a challenge when you have a big platform. And you guys really, for those that are listening in, you spun out a company, MoxieWorks, that used to be your Windermere Technology Solutions. And we've done a lot of work with clients that are on the MoxieWorks platform. So we know it quite well, but not everybody does. But it's one of those things where we know having that big broker platform, for a lot of brokers, they've really struggled to make it work, but it seems you guys have made it work. And I'm curious as to how's COVID impacted that. Tell us a little bit about that story, because I think it needs some airtime. You guys are too quiet about it.
You guys,
Do we start at the beginning?
Yeah. Actually, I'll start with the beginning, and then Obi took over at one point and is responsible for the success we've had. We used to, when the internet came along, we decided that we were like one of the first searchable databases on the internet. And so we created our own technology department, and it just became a big black hole. We were spending a lot of money there, and developing things that were specific for Windermere. And so we made the decision that if we were going to invest dollars, we should be investing dollars in things that brokers across the United States could take advantage of, and not things that were just specific to Windermere. And so that's what prompted us to spin it off into a separate company. And from there, we started running it like a real live tech company instead of a department within our franchise operations. And we actually hired somebody who was a professional that could run a tech company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what have you seen over the last, because we're talking to other technology providers, how is having that platform in place, what's it done for you guys over the last 90, 120 days? Are people using it more? Is it more like what in general, we've heard technology usage is up, but I'm interested in the specifics with you guys because it is a big platform. It's got a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I think, back to the silver lining, when this first started, we realized that we now do have a communication platform where people are paying attention, and their desire to see each other and get online on a Zoom like this was really apparent. So we launched a weekly series of all sorts of different things: tech tools, economic updates from Matthew Gardner, coaching, recruiting, just a plethora of things. And people have all of a sudden time to invest in their technology adoption. They're learning the technology now where they're sitting at home. And so for us over this period of time, I think it's given people an opportunity to really dive deep into what's available and offered. And so I think it all creates, we've had just the amount of communication going back and forth, and the people that have said how grateful they are that we are communicating with them through everything, where other brokerages have been very quiet. It's apparent that they like it, and it's helping from an adoption standpoint, I think.
What I especially like about MoxieWorks, and this is not a commercial, this is sincere from our point of view, that there are many companies, brokerage companies that have tech departments, tech products, and many of them tend to serve, as one would expect, almost exclusively the company which they were born under or are funded under or are operating under or have a report line to. But you truly did spin it out from away, Windermere. MoxieWorks today, when you look at it, York Bauer, again, excellent technologist. When you look at York and you look at Moxie, it is in all regards an autonomously, independently well-run and managed tech vendor. I mean, you look at it and you go, well, wow. If I remember correctly, Long and Foster is involved, and I think Howard Hanna is involved. And you look at multiple very credible, very respectful, very successful companies from across the country. Yeah. East Coast, as you said, Geoff, East Coast, West Coast, you say, oh, this is no longer just a Windermere, Seattle business. It is not that by any stretch, right? It has way surpassed its own. It's like a child that was born and has now grown up, and it has become his own person, right? And you look at the person, you go like, damn, you're actually a fine young individual, right? You can see the individual has actually become his own person. And we think MoxieWorks is most certainly, and we did it in our Tech 500. Jack, I don't know, we didn't rank them from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because they were in multiple buckets, but I think you and I said it was one of the 10 best technology companies in our space, in the entire industry.
We did have a ranking, but we held it back.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, we decided to keep that hush-hush for now until we come back next year. We say, okay, now we really feel strongly that we can rank it. But it is one of the vendors that I feel like has led the move towards a true broker platform with best-in-class ability to integrate and plug in and bring data. So, and I know that's now separate from you guys, but I wanted to, you should get some credit for that. I don't think you do enough from the broader community, and it's a big deal. Very few brokers, as Stefan had said, have spun out something like that and had it be a really successful venture. So great job.
And the tech we researched, there was no motive in doing so but trying to order and sort out and categorize and analyze all the vendors I'm not the tech guy. I am a more management and probably a little bit more sales and marketing, where Jack, although he's great in marketing, really comes from a tech background. And I said to Jack at one stage, I said, it feels like every time I open up Inman, there's another tech company. And I said at one stage, I think I know a lot about tech, but I can't keep up anymore. I'm getting behind the eight ball here. Could you please tell me, who's the good tech companies? And he said, well, in which bucket are you referring to? And I said, what do you mean, which bucket? I mean, tech. He said, there are so many vendors. I said, well, how many are so many vendors? He said, I don't know, but the last time he and his team, because he's got the CTO of NAR now working for him, and we've got Travis Saxton, and we've got Jonathan Peterson. And I said, well, how many tech companies are there? He said, I don't know, but I think it's like maybe about 2,000. So can you believe it? We have 2,000 technology vendors, products, companies in our industry, right? And we don't need 2,000. We definitely don't want one, but just like the MLSs, right? You want maybe 10 or 20 or 30, but not 2,000. Holy smokes. Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, I do want to add, I think the important part of Moxie, which we didn't quite realize what we were doing in the beginning, is that the product gets way better because of the brokerage community. Once one person starts something and everybody adds to it, it's a much, much better product. And so that's the joy of Moxie, I think, from a standpoint of Windermere, is it gets better the more people use it. And that's great for our brokers and our agents. And it's, I think, important for everybody to know that that's how we run it. We just think that the more people that can give input and help build products, then that's good for all of us. So.
And we're probably, as an industry, pushing ourselves to try and get to some form of uniformity and collapsing of silos and collapsing of products and better integration. And of course, the fragmentation we have at the moment makes that hard. But I mean, now we hear, Keller Williams has got a platform, and Compass has got a platform, and Realogy's got a platform, and so-and-so's got a platform. And it sounds like just about everybody has a platform. And obviously, we don't want platforms for everybody. We want platforms which are more universally used by maybe everybody, or at least the majority of people, or a lot of people.
Yeah, most people fall into an ecosystem. They're either an Apple ecosystem or a Microsoft ecosystem, and there's huge benefits to that. You're like, oh, all this stuff works with my ecosystem. I don't have to go, have the vendor build a special thing for me. It just works with a lot of stuff. That's the benefit when you have platforms that are mature in a space. And we're not there yet. But I'd certainly say, MoxieWorks has been a company leading the charge there, and there's a few others as well. But it is it's a standout. So yeah.
Why don't each of you, if I could ask this question off the cuff, why don't each of you give the audience here today one or two pieces of advice that you would be giving if you were standing in front of one of your Windermere offices or teams or franchises or franchises in any one of those 10 states? I think, Obi, you said that you were in 10 states. So if you were not to fly out and you were to be, or you were having a call in front of anybody at a Windermere, and you were going to say, okay, brokers, managers, team leaders, top producing agents, here's two pieces of advice that I would share with you that I think you should do over the next 90 days, 120 days, doesn't matter. What kind of advice would you share?
Well, I'm known as Mr. Doom and Gloom.
Oh, no. Okay, Geoff, let's hear it.
So we're talking about how our real estate market is way better off than we thought it would be. And my advice to all of our operators is it may not stay that way. And so be careful about, hoard your cash. We may have another hit of COVID. The economy may be, we may see results from the toughness in the economy. So be careful about how you're running your business.
So caution. Don't become too cavalier too quickly. Yeah. Be prudent. Okay. All right. Tip number one, or message number one. Who's up for number two?
I'll go next. Mine would be hang tight to those relationships. I think everything in our business is about relationships, and it goes from us as a franchisor to all of our offices, to every single one of our agents, from the agents to their customer, to our communities. I think that we need to be leaders at being great at relationships.
So I think I'm hearing, we know that relationships has always been important. It's always been key, but don't think because of current COVID or technology or Zoom that it's become less important. It hasn't. It is still as important, if not maybe even more so than before. And that is from franchisor to franchisee to branch manager to team leader to customer to buyer to seller. So it's all the way down. We each have a responsibility to strengthen the relationship with whoever we need to do that with.
We really like to call it from all the way up. We're really
okay, so from the bottom all the way up. Yep. Yeah. Yes. You take the pyramid and you've turned it upside down. Yeah, I can buy that. Sure. Yep. Okay. So prudent with finances and expand and continue your relationships. Obi?
I think I would say take what you've learned from this. This is a once in a lifetime event that has created, you know, like we were saying before, hopefully, a silver lining. You know, our people have been over communicating, and if once we come out of this, that isn't an excuse to stop over communicating. I think the things that you've learned in this, the good things, should continue forward. And it gives us an opportunity to evaluate, I think, our business. You know, what does space look like moving forward? What does communication look like moving forward? What does, you know, what is our new world? And I think take the positive of what our new world is and expand on that and move forward.
I like that wisdom, because I think often and frequently, somebody interviewed me, well, many times, but a couple of days back, and one of the questions they asked is, do we continue with the change or do we revert back to our old habits, right? And regrettably, we might actually revert back to many old bad habits, which we shouldn't do. But we probably sometimes, you know, as soon as everything's over, everybody rushes to the beaches, right? So it doesn't mean that we can't go out. We should just be still cautious of the fact that we did certain things during these times. And maybe there are some things we did now which actually are good things. And Jack, I know you had a strong opinion. Remember about the discussion which Obi just mentioned about office space? I know we were doing a lot of research 10 years ago and 5 years ago and 3 years ago and 2 years ago, how the office space is, you know, I don't know, went from what, 125 square feet per agent to 75 square feet per agent to 45. And I think you came up with a stat, was it 25 or something like that recently?
25 feet for square feet per agent is we're seeing as, I mean, we've been on a downward trend the whole time, but there's a real balance of, like, you know, how valuable is this, or have we proved that we don't need offices at all? Or do we still need them for specific purposes? Like, what's the right mix now? And I'm curious, you guys have a large footprint. How have you answered that question, or have you answered it? What do you think from your network? Because I think, you know, it's a big question for a lot of brokers.
It is.
It's funny you ask. We do a Tuesday and a Thursday owner and manager call, and this last one yesterday was about lease negotiations and renegotiations and, you know, all of that all of our people are thinking about. Next week's meeting is on space planning, so I don't have a great answer for you today.
So you guys are right in the conversation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
The interesting thing is how many people are just dying to get back to work, and we are not letting them in our offices, but they are sneaking in, and they're just really clamoring to get back. So that is a good sign, in my opinion, because it is a cultural thing.
Yes.
I have run a brokerage before with some partners, and we had a very in-office culture. We had a very, like, people came in, we worked together, it was an open floor plan, we listened to each other, make sales calls, there was coaching, it was very, you know, there was a real value proposition to coming into the office. You were more productive when you were there. And so I get it, but people didn't have private offices. They didn't, you know, there were 2 conference rooms, you had to book them. So it was a limited amount of space. It was on the smaller side, I think. But I get it. There's a certain dynamic for people that, and they may not have a great work situation at home. You know, they might have kids at home.
The homeschooling thing is not, people are not loving homeschooling and trying to work also.
No, yeah, super hard.
Have you found that Jack said something? Have you found that the buyers in Seattle or the surrounding areas are asking for something different in a house these days as a result of COVID? I mean, are they asking for that, I don't know, extra room or study room or a larger garden or more space or larger yard? Is that popping up?
Anybody?
Well, what we talked about on the owner call the other day was our condominium market seems to have slowed down in some of the areas. And I think that we're kind of like, I wonder why. And we think it's people don't want to be
People are making
pent up.
decisions to move out of the city.
Yeah, that they're making decisions to move away because they can work from remotely. And I don't think they want to be in elevators and pent up in small
Close spaces. Yeah.
I don't know. It's the large houses also, right? Like who wants to cut? I mean, cleaning a large house is a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We certainly have seen an uptick in like second home markets, though. I think people that have, that have the money to buy in a second home market and were stuck in their one house are like, oh, maybe it's time for me to have another place.
Well, if you said there was a shortage of real estate and people may want a second home or maybe even one home after that, that's going to make the situation just worse, isn't it, Obi? I mean, there's just going to be more demand and more demand.
Yep, that's right. And we're not fast enough, obviously.
Yeah. We had a call with someone a couple of weeks ago, and that company concentrated in New York, and of course that is a very, very uniquely hard hit market. So it's not a comparable market to anything. And of course they still buy those, I don't know, multi-million-dollar condos on the whatever floor where they have the whole floor. But that's unique because that's a very small segment of the market that can afford a 7-figure or 8-figure apartment that has a whole floor. But they did also acknowledge that there was a large number of people that worked in New York that were starting to say, I wonder if I shouldn't maybe be in New Jersey, right? Can I go somewhere else and get into another way? I don't want to be in that condo on the whatever floor you're thinking about. Yeah. Have you seen a growth in, have you had new agents? Have you had a growth in the applications of new agents?
Yeah, we're seeing, it's pretty interesting. Recruiting, people are at home, right? So they're answering the phone for recruiting calls a little bit more. They're taking time to look at what your company has to offer. So we've seen an increase, not so much in new agents during this, because it's very hard to show somebody an office when you can't go in it. But we are seeing people pick up the phone and answer those recruiting calls. And as a company like ours, we're a franchise business. So we're getting quite a few calls from companies who need support and love the communication and things like that, talking to us about the possibility of joining Windermere. So it's been very refreshing from that aspect for us, I think.
We obviously none of us really have stats yet, but T360 is very much a company that's based in logic and fairness and equality and analysis. Everything that we put out needs to make sense to us. So we will struggle through every number we get to try and see if the number makes sense. And Jack and I were saying, we wonder if in the next few months, he and I and our team may be able to get numbers, because if they say there's 36 million people that lost their job, of which they say that about 6 million maybe got their job back or got something at Amazon or something. So there's maybe a net loss of maybe 30 million, just a round number. Even if that number is off with 10 or 20%, it's still a lot of people, right? It's more than in any historic short period of time ever. So if there's 25 million people that don't have a job, how many of those might come to our industry knocking in the next 3, 6, 9 months if they don't get their work back? Even if you just say 10% or 15%, whatever, 5% of 25 million is still, 1.5 million people. That's like the number of NAR members. So if only 5% of the people that lost their job consider real estate as a potential career, we could actually have a flood of new people in our industry in the next few months. You think does that argument fly, or is that not true?
Absolutely flies. I think they could be at home taking real estate exams right now online.
Yeah. It's one of the one of the great things about real estate is how flexible it can be, and it can fit. And if you're on, if the line of work you're in looks like it's flat or going to be very sporadic, I can see a lot of people saying, hey, I think I'll get I've been interested in real estate before I get my license. So I think there's our perspective, we think there's a case there that might see more people enter.
If you guys had to take a shot in the dark, just a winger, we last year did in the country 5.34 million transactions. So 5.3, 5.4 as a total. What would your guess be for the country as a whole by the end of this year? If we wrap up it, and I know we don't know, neither do we know. Jack, everybody's asked us the question, and we don't know either. We've just said, okay, if we had to take a guess, we think it's this number, and I'll give you our number. But if you think we get to the end of this year, we tally up everything for everybody, 2020. Do you think we'll be equal or lower or higher? And if we're lower or higher, what kind of percentage do you feel? You have just an instinct.
Obi, text Matthew Gardner.
Seriously, I'm kind of bummed I don't have that right off. And then when you said 2020, I thought, well, 20 off. But
20 off in 2020.
Yeah.
It's not a bad guess. Not a bad guess.
I don't know. That's a hard one.
My gut is 4
point.
How many transactions were there?
Well, last year there was 5.34. So 5,340,000.
4.6.
4.6. So let me quickly see what does that. If we do 5,340, and we'll just take 4.6 off. Take that off. That is 740,000 less on 5.34. And Geoff, I should be having you doing this. Okay. And Geoff, are you more conservative on that number, or you think that 4.6 is a good number? Or are you going to go lower than that?
I think I'd do the 4.6.
4.6 as well. Yeah, we were looking, and we said that of course, Q1 was better than last year in most cases. Q2, especially the April-May part, is probably going to be down a 30 or a 40%, depending where you are. And then Q2 might come back. And as you said, you were maybe at 80, 90%. So you might be down maybe 10%, hoping that, Q4 maybe returns to normality if we can. Seasonally adjusted, of course, but normality. So Jack and I was trying to calculate a year number. And we were saying, Obi, you said 20% down. We actually had said we think maybe 15% down. So in very, very close proximity.
So Phil, we had a helpful participant who verified the number I just did. So it's 13.8% is if we go to 4.6.
Yes. 13%. So in that same ballpark, right? 13%. 13%. We said 15. We said 20. So considering, that's actually not too bad. I mean, it's not good, not a great number, but it's not too bad.
But coming off a very strong, very hot market, to have a 14, 15%. Pullback that's really not because of real estate. It had nothing to do with our industry. It just happened. So
is Phil using a 12C? Is that it? What did he say? Is 45-year-old? So there we go.
He's using an HP 12C. So
there we go. 12C. Guilty as charged. Mine is also 45 years old. I think Jill, if I remember, Obi? Was it your and Jill's dad was John, right? That
Correct.
Started the company, and 1972. That the year?
Yep.
I was in high school, 1972. Yeah. And you guys, you're younger than I am, so you were two. Jill, you were what, kindergarten?
I was second grade, I think.
Second grade.
Yeah.
Geoff, you were maybe in elementary school.
And believe me, he had us washing cars.
Is that John, your dad?
Oh yeah. Like the minute we could do anything, he had us in that office.
So both of you have basically been in the family business basically your entire life?
Obi had a little foray into something else.
I might have started a bar in my 20s.
Started, owned, participated, and successfully ran.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm gonna end with a question and say, tell us a little bit about the regatta, which I read on one of your documents. And I'm not a boat guy, but my son did study in England for a time. So he was at one stage at Oxford for a short period of time as an exchange student. And he participated in some of the regattas, and he had no clue what he was doing, but he did. And as part of that, I remember him sending photos over of them doing it. So tell me more about your regatta. What is it and how does it work?
We've actually had Oxford to Seattle a couple times. It's called the Windermere Cup, and it is a sporting event in Seattle that has been around for 100+ years. And we started sponsoring it maybe 30 years ago. Yeah. And it's just the coolest, the most fabulous race course. It's just picturesque, beautiful. And so what the gist at the time was that the University of Washington has an amazing rowing team, and they didn't have any competition to row against at this regatta that tens and thousands of people lined the shores of called the Montlake Cut to watch. And so we started sponsoring it, and we bring in an international men's team and an international women's team and a collegiate team from the country, within the US, and put on a big old party, and it's really fun.
The first year we brought in the Soviet Union.
Oh yeah, that would be fun, right?
Yeah, they just crushed them.
You crushed them.
Crushed the UW.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, we try to bring in some good competition from around the world.
Wow. The Soviet team which came, was it a city or a town or a state or national or a local, or was it another real estate company?
That was it was their national team.
A national team.
Yeah.
National team. Well, from my side, I'm going to ask Jack if you'd wrap up first, but I'm just going to quickly say from my side, thank you very much to the three of you for your time. It's been delightful to get to know you just that little bit better over the web, and we hope that you've had a chance to also get to know us a little bit better and share some knowledge and information with the people on the call. Jack, is there something you'd like to say or ask or wrap up or do something?
You guys should get out more. You do such great work, and people don't know. And I really feel like there's a lot of brokers that would benefit from hearing your leadership. And so,
Thanks for including us.
Yeah. And I know that's a choice, but I'm encouraging it. So anyway.
Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, and we hope that everybody on your team and company stays safe. Thank you very much for everything you do, and take care. Thank you, guys.
For having us.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.